this is my one bar Arcanist build that is for PvP content, and I use it for Battlegrounds, Imperial City, and Cyrodiil. It's just something that I set up. I don't play it all that often, but it just doesn't fall out. It's just a good setup. It's fun to play. It's tanky, but also does damage, and it works good if you're solo farming Telvar, or if you're running with a group in Cyrodiil, or if you're just farming Battlegrounds when there's a weekend event. So here is the setup. Here's the character sheet. I am running 32 health, 32 stam as an Imperial. We really just want to get this health above 32,000. That's the minimum. You want 32k so that you're not just a ganking target. Those are all from our ring, and then we are running the Thief Mundus. If you don't want to crit and you want to focus on being tankier, you can focus on health. If you want to do more straight damage and not crit damage, you can do something like the Warrior. But I like this setup because our beam crits a lot, and also the flail crits a lot, so I like running the Thief. For our food, I'm just running Jewels of Misrule because it's cheap and it's easy, and it gives us the health I need to hit my minimum, and it gives me recovery. For the skills, it is a very simple, straightforward setup. We are running Despite Ward of the Lucid Mind. It's our damage shield. It reflects damage. It heals us when we use Cruxes with it. It's just a good survivability skill. Pragmatic Fate Carver. This is our beam, and this morph gives us a damage shield and grants us interrupt immunity, so you can't just be knocked out of beaming. And of course, as you know, more Cruxes used before the beam, then to start the beam, then the more damage the beam does. The Flail, this is our spammable. It's arguably one of the best spammables in the game. Not only does it do 6,300 physical damage when you cast it, but it also heals us for 3,490, and it generates a Crux, and it immobilizes them, and it puts a Abyssal Link on them so they take 5% more damage, and it's an Execute. It deals up to 100% more damage to enemies with less than 50% health. So that means if they're close to death, you're not hitting for 6379 anymore. You're hitting for almost 13k. And it's cheap. It's only 2,600 stamps. So we literally spam this. Resolving Vigor, of course, on most builds, easy, straightforward heal. Heals us for 18, almost 19,000 health over 5 seconds, and gives us Minor Resolve, increasing our physical and damage spell, but we already have Minor Resolve from our ring. The Rune of the Colorless Pool, this is just a great skill to use. It puts Minor Vulnerability and Minor Brittle on them for 20 seconds, which increases their damage done by 5%, and their crit damage taken by 10%. And it stuns them after a 1 second delay for 4 seconds. So this stuns them, they have to break out of it, and then you're already on top of them flailing, and they're taking 5% more damage before the Abyssal Link. So then they're taking 10% more damage with those two things stacked, and 10% more crit damage. So it's just a great engage skill. And then for our ultimate, we're using Sanctum the Abyssal Sea. This is just a crazy good shield. It takes 60% of all damage you take in for 10 seconds, up to a max of 76,000 damage, and that goes higher the higher your health is. So if you swap out our Mundus for like the health Mundus, that will be a much bigger shield. And then after the shield ends, it sends out all the damage it absorbed as magic damage to everyone within 5 meters over 10 seconds. So if they happen to max this shield out, that means everyone there is going to be taking the 76,000 damage over 10 seconds. And that's the skills. Of course, you can flex out like Resolving Vigor with another heal, but I just always run this on my PvP characters because it's just simple, fast, easy, insta-cast. You can cast it and just let it rock while you're fighting, and it just does a little heal over time. It's nice. So for our blues, we're running Mastered Arms, Fighting Finesse, Focus Mending, Ironclad, Reds, Survival Instincts, Celerity, Pain's Refuge, Boundless Vitality. These two, Survival Instincts, Pain's Refuge, really help stack with our ultimate shield, because if you're in a fight with several people, if you're 1vxing and you pop that shield, well, it's absorbing stuff, and then both of these, this makes it so that your skills cost even less, while that shield's absorbing the DOTs and the effects they're putting on you. And then Pain's Refuge, again, every 2 effects, it reduces how much damage you take up to 20%. So you're taking even less damage in the shield, and it's just a really good tanky setup. If you have low CP, always try to do 1 survivability, 1 damage in blue. And red, I always focus easy things like Balanced Vitality first, and then I shoot for Celerity because I like to move, and then I work my way towards the other ones. And then greens, always focus Steed's Blessing for movement, and then Gifted Rider for your mount speed. And then I just, anything, as long as you have break fall, you're good to go, because you don't want to die falling off a keep wall or something. For our sets, we are running One Piece Magma Incarnate, the Oakensoul Ring, of course, infused with weapon damage. We are running Order's Wrath Jewelry. I'm running both of those as Swift because, again, I find that movement speed is king, especially if you use this character like I do in Imperial City. You want to be able to get in, get out, move around a lot. Swift just does it a lot. Swift is not needed. Bloodthirsty works really well to make that flail hit even harder during its execute phase. Infused is always the meta of PvP, but if you don't want to spend 80k per trait, then just do Bloodthirsty. I do Order's Wrath. I do a 1-piece light Order's Wrath. And then I do our heavy chest and legs of Order's Wrath. Legs and chest are both reinforced heavy, so that you get that huge armor increase. And then the light, so that we can get our passive from the Undaunted skill line, which I'll show in a second. And this gives us, of course, crit chance, weapon, crit chance, and then it also gives us crit heal and crit damage by 8%, so it's just a great set for PvP. And then we're running Deadly. So Deadly, I'm running a couple pieces Divines, and I'm also it's also off trait because I just didn't transmute it. But you don't really have to, because it's just a great set, because it gives us weapon damage, crit chance, weapon damage, and then the big one, increase our damage of your damage over time and channeled attacks by 15%. So this makes our beam do 15% more damage, which is massive for the Arcanist. And then, of course, we're running the Deadly Bow and Sharpen for the pen, and weapon damage enchant, so that when that procs, we get the weapon damage. We are using a bow for the passive of the bow, because the bow passives have a few things. Now, my bow skill is not maxed, because, again, I don't run this character a lot, and before I was running dual wield on it, and I didn't like it that much, and I like the bow more because we get the increased weapon damage by 2% when people are 15 meters or closer, which just makes our flail hit even harder. Those are both for the bow. We don't care about that. And this is the one I'm working towards. You get Major Expedition when you do a roll, so that's 30% more movement on top of our Swift, on top of everything else. 30% more. That is great for PvP fights. That's great for getting away from somebody trying to gank you. That is just a great skill to have. Yeah, and that's why we're doing that. And I'll show you guys why we're doing the Undaunted for Undaunted Metal. Since we're running that 1-piece light along with our medium and heavies, we get the increased max health, stamina, and magicka by 2% per type of armor, so you can get 6%, which we have thanks to those light hands. And yeah, that's the setup. When we're talking passives, like, of course I have the armor passives, but the big passives we're shooting for here is we want those bow passives, so we can get that Major Expedition, and we get that increased damage and crit chance when they're close to us. Well, the crit chance is when they're further away. We get the damage when they're close up, and then we get that Major Expedition when we roll dodge when your skill line's high enough, and then we want that Undaunted Metal, so you get all that armor buff, and that's what sets us up. Yeah, that's the build. I'm going to attach a Battlegrounds so you guys can see it. Of course, Battlegrounds are different because I have no CP, but it'll just show you guys how hard this thing hits and how tanky it is. It does great in Battlegrounds, great in Imperial City. Yeah, thanks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, let me know what you think, and check out the other builds if you're looking for anything else. Thanks, guys.